Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again. So here with another reaction. This one, something a little different. I mentioned on the live Q&A yesterday in response to some requests that had come through around me reacting to the Sheriff of Baghdad, John Shrek McPhee. I don't know his story. I don't know much about him. This is in regards to the Antihero Podcast. So this is episode 140, and they've labeled it the Barney Fife of Baghdad. I've heard of John Shrek McPhee. I think one of my friends, Damien Porter, interviewed Mr. McPhee years ago on his podcast, the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast. But I've not watched that. I don't know anything about John's upbringing or anything like that, other than he was ex-Delta Force, I believe. And I have seen little shorts of him where he's talking about having done some work with the Australian SAS a while ago. And he spoke positively about his time from what I recall from that short video clip. So anyway, Mr. Brent Tucker, former Delta Force operator, one of the main hosts or co-founders of the Antihero Podcast, along with his teammate. I'm not sure. I think his teammate comes from a policing background. I don't know his teammate's name, but hopefully we'll hear that, or maybe they do a bit of an intro. I'm not sure. And so I thought I'd have a look at this, not to try to stir up any trouble, but to give my thoughts. Some of the messages that came through, they said they felt that I'd be interested, or that they would be interested, I should say, to hear my thoughts on some of the stuff that they highlight, and or in particular from what I believe or from what I understand that Brent highlights in regards to John McPhee's experiences in the US military. So anyway, let's jump in. If you're here for this, let's jump into this.
Heard all kinds of, which I know is absolutely not true, but the only person that's going to know is you and them, and they'll never talk. So you can just make up your own story if you wanted.
No one can stand the way he carries himself. Not just the lies. I mean, the lies are one thing, but
I've no idea what that was at the start of this video. I'm not sure what that piece was in relation to or what it's about, but I'm sure these guys will get into it.
The way he lies, I'm telling you, you want to talk about such a tight-lipped group of people that were more than happy to be like, oh, I'm surprised it took you so long to call me, Brent. Well, unless you guys have been living under a rock lately, you're probably aware of the John McPhee incident. I don't call it an incident. The John McPhee saga. There's a good word. So over at Valhalla, they got a hold of some FOIA information that was very damaging to John McPhee.
Valhalla, I think that's another ex Special Forces US SF guy's channel. I've seen bits and pieces. I think he's got another big beard. I think he does a whole bunch of training stuff and provides some information. He does some research and gets some information on people's backgrounds. I think he's done a whole bunch of stuff on Tim Kennedy. I know I've seen bits and pieces of that. Pretty sure that's the guy that they're talking of, because I've been sent links to have a look at those ones in regards to Tim Kennedy to do reactions to those. So Valhalla.
If you guys don't know, I'm only going to recap it real quick. Go over to Valhalla, go to his episode Throne of Lies. It will cover it much more in depth for about 25 minutes. But here it is to catch you up. John McPhee's not a sergeant major. John McPhee's not a Green Beret. John McPhee lost his security clearance. John McPhee got fired from the Army. John McPhee is a documented woman beater. I don't normally bring in personal stuff to episodes, but
yeah, that's pretty. Sorry to cut him off there. That's pretty. Obviously, clearly private and personal. Sad if that's the case. so Brent is citing that he's a documented woman beater. Documented, I don't know what that means. Does that mean, he's been charged by the police? I'm not sure. But yeah, man, pretty intense, I suppose. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. Like going in on a person with regards to what I understand it's his military stuff, but throwing that into the mix is pretty. I don't know. I don't know if it's right or appropriate or relevant. Sorry, I cut off Brent. He was talking about saying that he doesn't normally go in on personal stuff. So anyway, I'll let him carry on.
When the personal stuff
plays into
your professional life, like, well, now it's game. So this isn't us going personal on it. This is just what happened. Pulled a gun on a girl, had sex with a girl that was passed out, and then emailed her from his military email address saying, "Hey, I hope you don't think I'm a rapist." Well,
what? Are you serious? John Shrek McPhee, Sheriff of Baghdad. So it sounds like what Brent is saying is that it sounds like this stuff has been, man, I might have to go and have a look at Valhalla's channel to see what, because they seem to be people that do their research. They are clearly people that have connections within that space, within the USSF space, and in particular units, and they seem like they dig into and cross-check, cross-reference, for want of a better term, the information that is either shared by somebody during an interview and or checking it with former teammates or leaders of those individuals during their time. But man, that's pulling a gun on a female. He mentioned they're having sex with a female that was passed out, emailing from your military email. I mean, I suppose that's probably pretty easy to verify, I would imagine, with regards to getting that. But how somebody would get access to that, or how and who would give that information even to former military personnel, I don't know if that's right, and I don't know if I don't know how accurate that is. Anyway,
I hope she does, because that's what that is. Yeah. So the end of his career was full of turmoil that he brought on himself. He brought shame on himself and his unit, which is why they stripped him of his Green Beret. They stripped him of his long tab. They stripped him of his rank.
Really?
They stripped him of his security clearance. He is an 11 Zulu, and he should be introducing himself as so, because that's what he is.
What's an 11 Zulu?
Anytime
I'm glad he asked. I was just thinking, what's an 11
you're
Zulu?
an E8, you get a Zulu. Okay. So 11 being infantry and
Gotcha.
E8 being Zulu. So he's an infantry guy. And not that there's anything wrong with being an infantry guy. Well,
so I thought John Shrek McPhee was ex-Delta Force. I'm sure that's what I've seen online. Like, again, I've stayed away from all of this sort of stuff, and maybe this is what some of the guys are talking about that I'd probably find it interesting. So seems like it's just, or not just, sounds like he was a Green Beret, but he's been stripped of that back to an infantryman. Doesn't sound like he was ex-Delta Force, or doesn't sound like he served with Delta Force. I'm sure that's what I've seen on other like thumbnails, ex-Delta Force, Sheriff of Baghdad stuff.
Oh, unless you say you're
right. Unless you say that you're a retired Green Beret Sergeant Major. That's not what you retired as. You're a retired infantryman, Master Sergeant. And that's the number one thing that's disturbing to me. And the reason, how many times have we got John McPhee questions on our lives?
I remember when they started coming in and you were like, not tracking it, but I'll look into it.
Yeah. And I knew something was afoot, but I wasn't tracking the severity of it. And
man, that's interesting. These guys sound like they've been getting queries about John McPhee for a while. I don't know how long their podcast has been going for, but this is episode 140. I am a subscriber to their channel. They're on that list of reactions that I've got on my list to go back and have a look at and then react to. But I just haven't got into them yet because there's still a whole bunch of other ones that I've been doing. But this one has popped up because it's just... I typically will look into stuff when all of a sudden there's a bit of an influx from different sources or from different people asking me to have a look at this. If it's just like one in a comment or one random email, I'll sort of probably copy that and paste it into the list that I've got. But when I get a few that come in sort of in the same sort of period of time, it does pique my interest, and then I will usually press pause on whatever it was, wherever I'm up to my list, and then move into the things that have come up. Much like the tragic story with Tom Phillips. So anyway, interesting. He's a retired... Well, he's saying that he should introduce himself as a retired infantryman, and you're right. There's nothing wrong with infantry at all. Like that's the bread and butter. That's my foundation and my bones. For me, I'm proud of the infantry background that I have. You probably won't see it because I'll remove the background, but the flag that I've got behind me. But I don't know. I haven't heard them say anything about him not being Delta Force or him being Delta Force. So maybe I'm making that up. Maybe he never claimed to be Delta Force. But sounds like he was a Green Beret, but he got stripped of that and must have got into some trouble or whatever before he discharged from the military. Oh, hang on. They said he got fired. So.
And also, he hadn't done as many podcasts as he had done now, and he'd done a lot more podcasts, and he told a lot more of his stories. And the retired guys just came out of the woodworks, being like, "You kidding me? You hearing what this guy is saying? He is an embarrassment to the unit. The unit believes him to be an embarrassment to the unit." And when Nate from Valhalla dropped that episode, the number one comment, "It's crazy," which is, well, I mean, he saw so much action. He's one of the greatest warfighters of our time, and he did so much. Yeah, I mean, like we broke him. Like a lot of people defending him that because he did all these great things in battle, that somehow, well, it's okay to rape a girl in her sleep. Make that make sense.
Yeah.
But here's my rebuttal. Who told you he was our greatest warfighter of all time?
He did.
He did. Who told you all of his amazing...
Really? I don't. Again, I haven't followed John Shrek McPhee's story, so I don't know. But would somebody... Man, I find that hard to believe that somebody would come out and say, "I'm the greatest war hero the country's ever had or seen." I mean... Man, I'd love to see that clip. If anybody knows where that clip is, where John McPhee has come out and said that he's the greatest war hero that their country's ever had, that would be a video that I'd like to watch and probably react to. Man, I think of, there's so many people, but I think of that Master Sergeant Benavidez, rest in peace, Medal of Honor. Holy heck, the stuff that he did, even just to get to the unit to be able to go and serve, and then not only his actions of what he did whilst he was in service. Incredible. So, man, that's crazy if somebody would come out and say that they're the greatest war hero.
missions and all the hundreds of bodies that he stacked up.
He did.
So there's actually, because there's always going to be someone that's...
Holy heck, sorry to interrupt so much, but did he talk about that he stacked up hundreds of bodies as well?
That's going to get you this aha moment. And we'll pull it up for you right now. There's one other person that did.
Put John McPhee in a case in glass that says break in case of war or violence, and you break that, he is one of the greatest war fighters to walk during jihad.
So,
well, that's somebody else saying it. Tim Kennedy, I don't know, I haven't reacted to his stuff. His credibility is somewhat in question, for want of a better term, I suppose, in terms of stuff that has been going on. I don't know if it's still going on, or that at least was going on with him for a pretty long period of time. But I suppose one of the greatest warfighter. He's the guy saying it. It'd be interesting. So if there's a clip like that of John McPhee talking about himself in that manner, that clip I'd like to see. I've never seen one. I hadn't even seen that clip of what's his name, Tim Kennedy, speaking like that about what seems to be John McPhee. So interesting.
Not really. I don't, because of some podcasts, some podcasts, because of some podcasts, he's not really a credible source. So right now you have the biggest grifter the veteran community has ever seen being your only vouch for being the greatest warfighter. I don't think I don't know. Please never be a what's it called when someone is please never be a reference on my resume. Okay, that's not what you want. All right. So basically, the two people you have vouching for this guy is himself. Never what you want either. If you have to say you're a badass, if you have to say all the amazing things you've done, that's an indicator.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think the people that have done incredible things, well, at least the ones that I know of anyway, they've never come out and spoken about it, and it makes them feel uncomfortable talking about it, which, is another real strong indication to me of their humility, their character, their integrity, that sort of thing, and the work that they've done. That's what I was mentioning. So they've showed the clip of Tim Kennedy saying those things about John Shrek McPhee, and that's cool. Like, if he feels that way about his mate, cool. Maybe they served at the same time together. I don't know. But then if you're saying it about yourself, man, that's I wish they showed that clip, or maybe they show it later on.
And if Tim Kennedy is the only one validating you, we'll call that a second indicator. So that's what we have going on right now. And even with them saying, hey, he did all these things, yeah, he got fired. Yeah, the wheels came off on the end, but that's what happens to the great ones. Well, let's find out if he is one of the great ones. I may know a few people, and we may have done something like this before, and our track record is pretty good. Yeah. And if undefeated is pretty good, that's just calling it like it is.
It's sad that that this type of stuff has to happen. It's sad in the first place that ex-operators, whether they're SF or not, feel like they have to lie about their backgrounds or their experience or their operational tours or deployments or whatever. It's sad that people feel like they have to, or that they get to that stage and that they have to, I don't know, inflate their experiences for the purposes of an interview or whatever, or to try to sound like they are more than perhaps what they were. But it's also good and sad, I would say, from me personally, just my take on listening to this, that people like Brent Tucker and his co-host Tyler are able to lean into their resources, their contacts, and find out, the truth, get some cross-referencing done and get some information. It's almost like, so Tyler's ex-police and Brent's ex-Delta Force. It's almost like they're starting their own sort of mash of private investigation into former special forces operators and fact checking their stories, their experiences that they share. So, that part I think is a good thing, but it's sad in that needs to happen in the first place, and that people without knowing all the details, Tim Kennedy, and like what sounds like what they're digging into here, John McPhee, have potentially been doing, which causes these people to then go and fact check their stories for the information that they've been sharing.
Man, sometimes people get on us and thare like, why are you attacking somebody? And, they made mistakes. And my biggest thing recently we've had people come on the show that have been stripped of all their accolades because of the choices that they made. And they went on to do a very positive thing with their life. And their platforms are positivity, change. They're not talking about war stories that did or did not happen.
We've had guys fired.
Yeah.
Taylor Kavanaugh.
Yep.
Fired from the SEAL teams. Owned it.
Mhm.
Went on to do great things. But I'll say this: it's a little bit easier to own getting fired when you're not beating up girls and raping them. Let's be honest.
Or pulling guns on them.
Let's. I can understand. I can't even say that. I almost said, well, I can understand why you lied. No. How about if that's in your past, and then what we're about to tell you was his real military service? How about you not get in front of a camera?
Ever.
How about ever? How about you're not the guy? So let's.
Man, that's a good point. Yeah, geez. Like when they bring back up the aspect with regards to all the element, I don't know what it is, whether he's been charged, whether he's gone to jail for that time or whatever, but pulling a weapon on a female, essentially raping a female, having sex with a female that is unconscious. I don't know what else you would call that. But man, just, I don't know, just either something going on up here which just isn't the full quid, and just, yeah, I don't know. That's nuts to me.
Let's start it out. This with Tim Kennedy Sr. talking on the Shawn Ryan Show.
You guys just make sure you do your shit.
What did you deploy with them?
Rangers?
Yeah.
Man, I jumped in Iraq in 91.
No shit.
The lies start early. This is he did not jump into Iraq with the 175th. It's pretty easy to tell. Anyone with Google can find this out.
Man, I'd never heard of anybody, and not that I've done a lot of researching or looking into it, but I'd never heard of anybody jumping into Iraq in 91, the first Gulf War. Yeah, interesting. Anyway.
Because the Rangers didn't jump into Iraq in 1991. He's talking about an operation called Irish Gold. Irish Gold was the code name for an airborne assault conducted by the 1st Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment in Kuwait in December 1991. Now, I know it's just
an exercise jumping into Kuwait in 1991 doesn't, like, Kuwait is not Iraq, and that's not a war zone at that time. From what I understand, anyway, I think it was more of a forward operating base, if anything. I could be wrong on that, but anyway.
Another country away. What's the big deal? Except, I don't know, jumping into Iraq is an actual combat mission where death is on the line, and jumping into Kuwait, into an allied friendly country to do a live fire exercise is drastically different.
Very different.
Very different.
Man, if that's what he did, but he's going around saying that he jumped into Iraq in 91, that's that's pretty piss poor. An allied friendly country, Kuwait, to do a live fire exercise. Hey, that's cool. It's no different to when we were in a forward operating base and getting some training and rounds downrange, live fire rounds and assaults on downrange onto potential targets that we might have encountered once we crossed the border into Iraq. But still very, very different. And, wouldn't be, that'd be like me or the guys that I deployed with talking about all these raids and operations that we did, and using the training prep and build up from training prep and build up from a pre-deployment perspective, and adding that into the mix of the war stories. That doesn't make sense. It just seems silly. Hang on, there's some stupid things popped up on the screen here. I'll just get rid of that. There we go. Anyway, let's crack on.
I don't even know how to equate that. That's like saying, I went and did battle with Mexico, but then I jumped into Texas. Like
Or I just cleared that complex.
Right.
You mean the training simulator?
It's just
those are better examples than what I was talking about. But that's sort of what I was trying to get at, or the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, it starts there, and trust me, it doesn't get better. Here we go. Let's continue on.
You know what's interesting is that I think I recall, I can't remember which interview it was on, but I remember Shawn Ryan saying words to the effect of, when he was getting into what he does so well, and it's hugely successful now, that he didn't want to have anything to do with SF guys, Special Forces guys. And I don't know, maybe this is part of the reason why. Now, I know Tim Kennedy has been on the Shawn Ryan Show, and I've not seen any clips, not that I can remember anyway, of John McPhee being on the Shawn Ryan Show. But in saying that, it's not surprising that he is on the Shawn Ryan Show, given his profile, I suppose, on social media. So, man, Shawn Ryan's he seems like a very intelligent, smart guy that likes to give people the opportunity to share their story. And for people to go on a show like Shawn's and just what seems to be just flat out lie, it's disappointing. No wonder he's got his guard up. No wonder Shawn's got his guard up about not wanting to have SF guys on his show.
On his career, and see what he did in Afghanistan. He talks about a lot about Afghanistan. Since he didn't get combat in Iraq, maybe he saw some amazing things in Afghanistan.
In Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. And what were you doing there?
Fucking killing Bin Laden.
No, you weren't.
Tora Bora.
You didn't kill
Let's
Bin
go
Laden.
into that.
All right.
We still haven't figured that one out.
Start.
Man, me and a couple other guys controlled every fucking asset in the Western hemisphere for fucking 10 days. Every fucking bomb, every pound of ordnance. Man.
Sorry to cut him off. It seems, I don't know, man, that just seems pretty over the top, controlling every asset, air asset, able to bring in ordnance and drop bombs into an area for the whole, what does he say, Eastern, Western hemisphere, or whatever it was. That just straight off the bat sounds like, an exaggeration to say the least. But anyway,
A couple other eyes dropped.
Okay, pause.
And
All right. Problem number one. He insinuates this was like me and a couple other guys get there. He's going to talk about here in a little bit, like all the killing that they do, and dropping bombs is killing, but usually when someone's this look at me guy, they just negate the other people that were around.
Yeah.
Most of these guys took over positions from Fifth Group.
Okay.
Fifth Group was already there. Fifth Group is dropping bombs. You didn't control every asset in the hemisphere. There was still a war going on throughout the whole country, and there were plenty of bombs getting dropped. And then he says, me and a couple other guys. There were several teams throughout the region, and you didn't drop anything, John. You had something called controllers and TACPs.
Yeah.
Drop things. So which you were none of. So you sat back safely from a couple kilometers away and drop bombs. And guess what? That is taking it to the enemy, and that's the story. And that's the story. You were there. Oh, it's crazy. All three of them start to parallel and intertwine.
That's interesting, eh? Like, when I think of a time when we deployed, like, we had some guys that were trained as FACs, or forward air controllers. That was the acronym that was used then. I don't know if it's still used now. But when we deployed, not only did we have guys like my PC was a forward air controller, so you could call in fast jets if we needed to for close air support or anything like that, and or to drop bombs onto targets. But we also had some STS guys, Special Tactics Squadron, I think was the acronym, I think that's what it stood for. One of the guys that we had, his name was Clint, his first name, I forget his surname. But man, they brought a whole nother, for me anyway, they brought a whole nother level of confidence and assurance, when you're going out into country and you're hunting or you're looking for, WMDs or for comms towers or for other places that you might want to try to get a foothold into the country at the time. And so when you've got those guys with their level of training, their skill, their competence, etc., for me, man, it was just another level of confidence that you'd have again. And I don't know of any of the Aussie guys that I was with that didn't acknowledge the value and how awesome the STS guys were from the States. When you've got Americans dominating the air above and you're out there in the desert and they potentially might think that you're an enemy target, man, it's comforting to have another American, or for them, I would imagine, to hear an American voice, but comforting for us to know that we've got an American STS operator in our team, embedded within our teams, amongst our troop, who can give the heads up to the fast jets up in the sky. Interesting. And, hearing him talk about it, that makes sense too, right? Like there's a massive amount of fighting and stuff going on. So for Mr. McPhee to talk about him and a couple of other guys controlling every asset in the hemisphere seems a bit far-fetched to me anyway.
You were there. You were at Tora Bora. But you don't have to be this like covered in blood and guts guy. But he's Tim Kennedy Sr. So what do you expect?
What I feel like we're just glossing over the whole like killing bin Laden, man. Was that just like a general like just kidding, but I was in Afghanistan? Or
he can't help himself. It has to be bigger, better. It has to be big. I was there killing bin Laden.
Anybody tell Rob about this?
No, you weren't. It was.
We found him.
Yeah, we found him. Yeah, I guess John doesn't know. We found him, and it was and
I think when they say Rob, I think they're referring to the guy Rob O'Neill, who I haven't reacted to or looked at. I've received some comments like I have with Tim Kennedy to do some reactions to that and what's been going on there, but I haven't touched any of those. This is probably, I think this is the first one of these types of videos that I've given a reaction to, and it's interesting, man. Like, I think partly because I really like Shawn Ryan's podcast. Secondly, because I've heard bits and pieces of John McPhee, aka the Sheriff of Baghdad. And like I mentioned, I think at the start, one of my mates, Damien Porter, who runs the Straight Talk Mind and Muscle podcast and also known as the How Not to Die guy, has interviewed John McPhee. I haven't watched that interview, by the way, but I think that was a few years ago when he interviewed him. And then these guys, just based on what I've seen and heard of them and their reputation and the way that they communicate and try to, I suppose, debunk stuff as and when they feel they need to. And this being another one of those cases where I suppose, they feel like they need to.
You didn't kill him. Unfortunately, I hate to say it, but all right, go ahead. See what else he's got, Drew.
We killed a lot of people. We killed so many people on my fucking first day. Like I just stopped counting then and there, like hundreds. Like it's too many to count. You know what I mean?
How were you killing them?
Radios. Took some 50 cal sniper shots. Shot some guys.
Pause it.
That just paused. So I was just going to ask 50 cal, wonder what range. I mean, listening to Brent, he's saying that they were like 2 clicks away. Even with 50 cal, that's a long way. Hundreds of people. I wonder how they're getting that information. Have they got, ISR up? Are they seeing the heat signatures, which looks like it's hundreds of people and then they're just being obliterated? I don't know. Maybe they're going to talk about it anyway.
Look at the body language here. Look at them looking down with the 50 cal thing. So I tried to find it because someone else told me that he claims to have a 2,500 meter 50 cal shot. But maybe it's on the Shawn Ryan Show, maybe it was somewhere else. But anyway, he definitely talks about having a 50 cal sniper weapon. If you have one, all the guys on the ground that I talked to, you smuggled it right by because they didn't see it. And in fact, they said there was so little, like almost non-existent, like fighting going on, and it was so hard to get up into some of those positions. One guy's quoted as saying, "If I could have thrown my SR-25 rifle down the mountain, I would have. It was heavy and it was useless to me because they were outside of small arms fire."
Yeah.
Which is what you do, not just small arms. I mean, big arms. You're outside of enemy fire.
It's interesting hearing Brent say, one of the guys that was there, saying if he could have thrown his SR-25 down the hill. Just seems like a strange mindset to have for me personally, even if you're outside of small arms or big arms fire, which I just heard him say. But interesting when he's talking about the guys that were on the ground. If he had a 50 cal, then John McPhee smuggled it right by them. It's also, I suppose, it might seem, or could probably seem, a bit hard or strange because we're only hearing Brent talk about it. Now, I'm not saying that he hasn't spoken with guys that were there during that time and during this particular period of time that John McPhee's talking about on the Shawn Ryan Show. But man, it would be, maybe they're still serving or whatever, or maybe they just have absolutely no interest in being on social media for whatever reason, regardless. But it would be, it would be nice if there were people that were willing to come on, that were there and go, yeah, I was part of this, and what he's talking about is either correct or incorrect, because I suppose it can leave some people, maybe even myself, not conflicted, that's not the word, curious, wondering, because sometimes we can not get all the information that we've received from people, even if we're investigating something, and may not get it 100% correct. So I don't know. It's, I'm sure Brent is a man of integrity who's repeating what he has been told by those that were on the ground with John McPhee. But yeah, it's just a bit disconnected, disjointed. You're getting second, third, fourth, fifth hand information by the time it gets to a platform like this. And then you've got me adding in my 2 cents, who wasn't there at all, but just listening in and trying to, piece things together, I suppose, from my perspective based on what I'm hearing. Anyway.
Yeah. You're a recce position with your JTAC or CCT dropping bombs. So he didn't have a 50 cal rifle. No one can verify. In fact, I'll bring this up several times. There were 2 different people that, ironically enough, had the same quote that said, "I served with John for years. I never even saw him fire his weapon once." And this is which is pretty amazing for the greatest combat fighter of our generation, or whatever you guys want to label him as. Never saw him fire his weapon once. The beginning of Afghanistan was very...
Damn, that's it's a big statement. I mean, could have been, I don't know what the situations could have been, different teams at the time when he was in combat or contacts. They may not have been in the same team at that time, or different jobs, different deployments, different rotation, who knows. But it sounds like, from what Brent is saying, there's a couple of guys that were in the same team as John, whether or not that's for his whole entire career, who are saying that they never even saw him fire his weapon whilst he was in the unit, which is not an alarm bell. It's just, I think that is the reality for a lot of people that have served in the special forces, regardless of where they are. I think that the reality is there's a number of people that they may look at it as missed out on operations or missed out on the opportunity to get into contacts. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, they still went through the process. They still got to where they were. They still laid the foundation for future generations to come through, leverage and learn and absorb that training and look to take that and apply it. But yeah, I suppose, maybe some people feel like, I was here. People expect, or people have these visions in their head of what they think a Special Forces soldier, not only what they think an SF soldier looks like, but also what they think an SF soldier has done. And so that maybe plays a part into why sometimes maybe people feel like they need to inflate some of their experiences. I don't know.
Different than middle of Afghanistan and even middle of Iraq to a point.
Yeah.
The insurgency hadn't started. We had a hard time.
Holy crap. I'm just looked at the time. It's like over 40 minutes. That time has gone by just like that. Anyway, I'll let this carry on for probably maybe another 8 minutes. I might as well let it go to 50 minutes now. And just see, this goes for an hour 45. So I'll probably be chunking this up into a few pieces.
Finding targets. We couldn't find targets. It was a very conventional war at this time. This will tie right back into his solo mission here in a little bit, but it was very hard to find the enemy. That's why Tora Bora was huge for two reasons. Bin Laden was there, and they found the enemy, so they finally got to drop bombs. But I assure you, as always, of the several guys I talked to that were on the ground, there's only one person that tells this story the way it's being told right now, and that's John McPhee.
Yeah.
JV team for life.
Watching the Air Force drop bombs. How about give credit to the Air Force? How about give credit to those guys? I mean, it's
a valid point. I mean, without them, I think it would be naive and just probably flat out stupid for anybody that didn't acknowledge or found themselves unable to acknowledge the significant and life-saving roles that the Air Force play for troops on the ground. So, they're the ones that are flying into position, that are dropping these bombs, onto the targets that are provided by whoever those controllers are on the ground that are calling them in. And from what Brent has said, he's saying that John McPhee wasn't one of the guys calling in the bombs onto those enemy positions, which again is it's just interesting.
They're support guys, and they don't get a lot of credit. They should. This is one of those times.
Yeah.
Those boys were working. Those boys were stacking aircraft. Those boys were dropping bombs. Why can't you give them credit?
Yeah, something a narcissist can't do.
That's something a narcissist can't do. All right, let's see what else he's got to say. And you can tell he's searching for it. He's looking down because he's making it up on the spot.
But mostly just fucking moving up, bombing them, right? Because you can't get there from here. And if they shoot at me from that mountain, like, I'll just level it.
All right, stop there.
Let's go.
Moving up, bombing them, moving up, bombing them, moving up, bombing them. They didn't move up. They had their positions, and they dropped bombs. That's what a recce position. That
defeats the purpose of it. Moving up closer. Up closer.
Are you assaulting Tora Bora? I wish you guys would have. Maybe. And that's outside of their control. So let's see if he's got anything else to say about Tora Bora.
Yeah, I'm wondering if when he's saying moving up, bombing them, it does sound like, now that I replay that in my head, but when I initially heard the moving up, bombing them, I initially thought he's talking about the aircraft and the bombs, that they're starting at a point, then the bombs that they're dropping are moving up and then bombing them and then moving up more bombs and dropping them again. I didn't interpret that until listening to Brent, that he was that he's maybe talking about moving up the feature, dropping bombs onto where the enemy is, and then once they've cleared that, then they're moving up to that next position and then dropping bombs again. I didn't picture it that way, but now that Brent explains it like that and says that they didn't assault Tora Bora or going up the feature, yeah, to me now it probably sounds more like that's what he's saying. So anyway, who knows? My initial interpretation, I wasn't listening to John's words thinking that he was talking about physically picking up and moving, because if you've already got the enemy position and you're already getting good rounds on targets for those places where the enemy is, I don't think there's any need to be moving up and progressively getting higher up the feature that you're bombing. I don't know if there's any purpose in that. You might send a small recce group or team of people later on or whatever, or get some aircraft up in the air to get that ISR and stuff going to scan the area before sending troops on the ground to check things out. But assaulting up, moving up bombing, yeah, doesn't sound right. But I'm glad Brent brought it up because my mind was in a completely different place.
We get to the top of the mountain and like we're just getting mortared like you fucking.
Okay, hang on. So no wonder Brent said, like, I was way off then with my thinking. He's saying then we get to the top of the mountain. So it sounds like what Brent said sounds like that's exactly what John must have been meaning. Moving up bombing. Crazy. Okay, so now they're at the top of the mountain.
Read about, and I asked that guy, I was like, is this incoming or outgoing? Like, what's going on here, right? Like,
hang on. I think I missed something. I need to go back to they're at the top. So let me just rewind this back a little bit. Oh, probably gone back too far.
We're just getting mortared like you fucking read to the top of the mountain, and like we're just getting mortared like you fucking read about. And I asked that guy, I was like, is this incoming or outgoing? Like, what's going on here, right? Like, he's like, why? I'm like, this is fucking great. Like,
I hope I'll probably stop this too soon, so apologies for stopping it, but this is probably a good time because it's nearly 50 minutes. I'll wrap this one up here. I think I heard him talking about moving up, spoken about that bombing, etc. Gave my thoughts on where my mind went. I didn't think that that's what he was talking about, but clearly it sounds to me, after Brent has explained it, and then after where John's at in this part of his story, or this part of his experience, he's talking about there at the top, once they got to the top of the mountain. And then he said, we're getting mortared. But the part that's confusing me is the piece around, he's asking, well, he says that they're getting mortared. And then he says in the same breath, is this incoming or outgoing? That doesn't make sense. If you're talking about mortars and that sort of thing, like they are outgoing mortars from a mortar position, and incoming mortars are distinctly different in sound and in effect and impact. So, that just seems pretty strange in terms of what he said. Maybe I think I'll play this a little bit more because I just need to hear from him what he's talking about. And then he's saying, what did he say? I don't think he got an answer. And then he was saying that this is great. So this is the part of where he's up to. But mortars incoming and mortars outgoing, you know, if you're a soldier and you've spent any time in the army, particularly in a combat role, say infantry, let alone special forces, you will know what they sound like, and you will know 100% whether it's outgoing mortars or incoming mortars. I'll give you the tip. That's and I wasn't even a mortarman in battalion, and even I know the difference between incoming and outgoing mortars. Crazy. Anyway, it's 50 minutes now.
And I just standing there, right? So he kind of like walked back by the truck and just left me there, right? And then like, I don't know, 10 years later, he was like, hey, remember that day on the top of the mountain? I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, those were incoming, but you had such a fucking smile on your face. I didn't want to ruin it for you.
Okay.
I was like,
That's man, that 10 years later or whatever it is he's saying, and the guy that he is there with, those are incoming, but I didn't want to ruin it for you because you had such a big smile on your face. And also the fact that, you know, when he's talking about that, it sort of makes it sound like the other soldier is a bit of a no idea, because he just, to me anyway, because if you've got incoming mortars coming in and the other person that he's describing just walks off, I'm assuming here that he's walking off to go take cover because it's incoming mortars, and he knows the difference between incoming and outgoing. I can't see any soldier not telling their mates to take cover if you've got effective mortars coming in and around your position. And again, you know the difference. You would know if that's enemy rounds and mortars coming in on your position or whether it was outgoing. Not only do they sound different, but the impact is different, right? So that's my 2 cents on that. And then to hear this far out, that doesn't make sense. I don't understand how anybody, in particular an SF operator, could not know the difference between incoming and outgoing mortar fire. Nuts. Anyway, I'm going to leave this there. This is nearly an hour, and I've only gotten through 23 minutes, and this thing is bloody an hour, 45 minutes long. So apologies about that. There are some parts in here which I will be skipping because there was a whole bunch of ads and stuff in there. So I'll be skipping to sort of try to edit those out. So this may not be the 53 minutes that it's showing at the moment. But anyway, I've enjoyed doing this reaction. Not real keen on, for me personally, not real keen on trying to bring anybody down, regardless of where they're from, or what they have done or not done. But definitely those that reached out and said that I would probably find this interesting and that they'd like to get my take, just given the way that I try to do my reaction videos. They know me quite well. So I'm actually enjoying it. I am a little disappointed with some of the stuff that I'm hearing or that I've heard. And I'll be honest, a little bit confused as well, dumbfounded by some of the stuff that I've heard on here so far. Not by the hosts, but just from or what the hosts have said about John and the other guys that were on the ground, and also just in some of the stuff that I've seen and heard John McPhee himself talk about on Shawn Ryan's show podcast. So anyway, if you made it this far, thank you for your time and for your support as always. I sincerely appreciate it. Not sure if you get anything out of my reaction here to this other than somebody who wasn't there on the ground with John, who doesn't know Brent or Tyler at all, but I respect and appreciate what they do. And definitely I enjoy Shawn Ryan stuff. So if people are going on Shawn's show or anybody's show and lying about stuff that they've done or that they've been a part of, that's disappointing. But I suppose not surprising given what is out there online available at this time and based on what other people have done. So anyway, we'll see how we go with the rest of it. I'll be breaking this up and chunking it up. Got plenty of other reactions to do in between. So yeah, we'll just keep chipping away at it. Thank you again for your support. I do appreciate it. As always, the message is the same. Anybody going through any difficult times, hard times, challenges, man, keep turning up, keep staying in the fight, put one foot in front of the other and just take one day at a time. Just keep pushing along, keep plodding along. If you have to, drag yourself along. I know it can be lonely, miserable, and that it can suck big time when things are hard. But I promise you, things can do and will get better. They always get better. I know that to be true. We just have to be patient and stick it out. So yeah, as always, go always a little further. Remember, who dares wins and who cares wins. And until the next video, there's a big mana wave coming from me to you, filled with my aroha, respect, appreciation, and gratitude for you all.